Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, how
Are you ready to do your presentation on the topic of Max Weber today?
yeah.
Yes, I am, but I've got a question to you. I can't really get how to pronounce his name correctly.
To be honest with you, I've looked all over the internet, I've formally surveyed my colleagues and friends, and it's about a 50-50% chance to get it right. Weber is the Americanized style of pronunciation, but Weber is a more European one. But not like it would matter for the actual topic though, so let's jump straight into it. Max Weber has made lots of contributions to the areas of organizational studies, management and organizational communication. The main one is his contribution around the concept of bureaucracy. He was a German sociologist and political economist. We use his concept of bureaucracy in organizational communication and organizational studies. But he actually wrote quite a lot of different areas and had influenced many areas of academia beyond just the workplace of studies. He saw the rise of large organizations bringing together large groups of people to manage, and that's not an easy thing. We're going from farms to factories, from small shops to larger organizations, and how are people gonna do that? He believed that the existing approaches to organizing that he saw had really obvious problems, especially around the area of authority. He saw that most workplaces used relationships, kinships, or family, in other words, or customs, to lead and make decisions. This is called traditional authority, and he saw lots of problems with that. The main one was particularism, where employers are hired or fired for a variety of non-organizational reasons such as their religion, race, sex, and relational family connection. We call this favoritism. He called it particularism because a particular group of people was having a very disproportionate influence, so the decision making was isolated in the hands of a few people, and it was very unlikely that they were going to be the most qualified people to run the organization at its best. He saw it as a disadvantage if they let this happen. So he favored a more rational approach to running the organizations. He wanted them to achieve their goals more rationally, especially through clarified leadership and clarified rules for decision making. In terms of leadership, he wanted what he called the legal rational authority, where the legitimate authority of leadership positions should be formalized and fixed to those positions. So if it wasn't about if you had lots of charisma, or if you were really persuasive, or if you were related to a certain somebody, your legitimate authority came from the position that you occupied in the structure. In this way, he wanted to be consistent with the societal law where organizations should be run by formal rules and policies. He wanted the organization's rules and policies to parallel the kind of rules that we see in society. And most importantly, he thought the authorities should reside in the position or the office. It should not reside with the individual person, their personality. Because let's say you are being supervised by somebody and they move out of that position and a new person moves in, with the person who is occupying that position should have decision-making power over you and your department. The person who leaves should not be still having that kind of influence from the sidelines over your organization. So he wanted to keep it much more legal and rational.
Bureaucracy has numerous parts, but first is division of labor among the participants. So the division of labor where we divide work into small separate steps. So let's say you want to finalize the semester schedule of courses at college. You would think that you might be able just to walk in, swipe your credit card, take a seat, and now you're enrolled in the course and off you go. But if you've ever been to a college campus, you know there's a lot of different steps. This is cut up into seemingly endless steps. So you have to figure out financial aid from one office, you get advice somewhere else when you register, that's a separate process. You have to pay through various ways. Then you can form your course schedule. You get add courses and drop cards from somebody else. And so what would be or could be very simple is divided into lots of different steps. And there are reasons for this. The first one of them is, let's say you swipe your credit card and the professor runs off with that money. Well, you're protected against that because you pay one department, then you take a course with another department. So bureaucracy was meant to again protect against disproportionate influence.
Hierarchy of offices is number 2. You're probably familiar with this. There is a kind of pyramid structure, and at the bottom of the pyramid are all the employees, And then you have supervisors, managers, and finally the big boss.
Number 3 is the set of general rules that govern performance was a big part of bureaucracy. So there are rules that govern how you perform the supervisor. The people running things can just make it up and change it from depending upon their mood and who you are. Let's say you're working at a place and they say productivity is important and you show a good productivity. They say your sales numbers are important and you show that. Customer service is important and you show that. Well, those are the general rules that everybody should be evaluated by. They shouldn't mark you high in these things and still fire you. You should be able to get rewarded, promoted, and maybe even get a raise if you uphold the goals and follow the policies. Number 4 is a rigid separation of personal life from work life. Discard again against particular situations, so let's say a couple gets married. They meet at work, they get married, and one of the people is still being supervised by the other. It happens in many organizations is that will put the person who was being supervised in a different department, so that their spouse is not directly supervising them. This guards against favoritism.
Okay, number 5. The selection of personnel is done on the basis of technical qualifications and that pursue the equal treatment of all employees. Number 6. Wrong gender, wrong family relationships. Number 6 says that participants view employment as a career and tenure protests against unfair, arbitrary dismissal tenure meaning. If you have ever been there for a while and you have what you might call veteran status, you are going to keep your job as long as you continue to do. And these are 6 points under bureaucracy. And we see bureaucracies all over the place. Anytime you hear the word administration, you are generally talking about organizations that have chosen the bureaucratic style. Ideal or pure examples of bureaucracies, the military is a classic example of large companies, even for-profit corporations, often organized in a bureaucratic style. And certainly factories like Volkswagen. Factories often choose in a bureaucratic styles of structure. The legacy of bureaucracy is a little bit mixed. Some people, of course, will still attempt to take advantage, even though Weber wanted a guard against particular isn't against favoritism. Some people, of course, can operate in any structure and try to find a personal advantage. There is also a concept of red table, and that the overemphasis on structure, policies, and procedure shows or prevent needed action. Either you work inside a bureaucracy, then you know what I mean. It feels as if just to do anything you are constrained by the limits of organization. Next come iron cage. What mean people who are trapped in calculated systems that pursue efficiency and control, that threaten individual freedom. You might feel like you're just stuck on your own little box, in your own little divided area of labor, on your rung of the hierarchy. So, the legacy is mixed, Weber saw this is much better than the alternatives like traditional authorities and particularism. We look to Max Weber quite often. In organizational studies, his work has been cited consistently for decades by tens of thousands of research scholars. And very recently, still, his work is more cited than ever.
Alright, so that is it. Thanks for your attention. The project was made by Annette Kadido, Dmytro, Kay Kozlova, and Tomek Perkowski.